and you could see what he did.
What did you think of Vince as an announcer? I loved him.
He was great.
I thought
he was a one-man show.
It never gets talked about nowadays because it's almost so far in the rearview mirror with Vince.
And you know
McMahon,
what?
But
I got to say, Vince, I think he wanted to be a wrestler, but his dad didn't want him to be one.
Oh, really?
I think, if I remember right, because Vince was into working out.
Yeah, he was huge.
He was a good-sized guy. Yeah.
Man. Oof.
And,
well, you know what? To tell the truth, he did become a wrestler, right? He became one of the biggest heels in history.
That's what I was going to say. I mean, later down the road, the stuff Vince did was the best stuff they had going.
It was great.
He was the best guy they had.
Bischoff said if there was the one guy who could have had to turn the war, it would have been Mr.
Vince.
McMahon, the character.
Yeah.
All right, so I want to keep us on track.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can I ask
ask
Bruno's making that decision, and
there you go.
Well, then he worked out a deal with Vince Sr. because it was so much, because Bruno wanted so much percent of the house, and I had a meeting with them because I was saying to them, look, honestly, guys, I'm getting stabbed and shot at, and I'm drawing the money, and it's but Backlund's making more money than I am,
right?
So that didn't seem fair.
That's not fair at all.
And Vince Sr. was good about it. He said, well, we realize Backlund's not super hot right now, and we understand, and so we worked out a deal where I got a percent, which was close, but a little less than Bruno.
Right.
Which was I was thrilled about because in those days that was big money. What that angle led up to was because we had like 3 matches at the Gardens and Spectrums and all over. Shea Stadium was kind of like the big blow off after a 6-month program, which in those days that was long.
Yeah, that was classic.
Plus they raised the prices, so we broke records and.
Well, after you created this immense heat, and we used to wonder about this even back then, how come you were never paired with the unholy trio, any one of the 3, Blassie, Wizard, Albano? Why did that never happen for you? Is it because you were so good on the mic yourself you didn't need them? Or?
Well, you know what? Yeah, I don't think it was even thought about that much, but right after the Bruno feud, it was things were changing. And I made the decision to go to a different territory because the other territory, I got so much publicity from that stuff. I was, big news. If I would have stayed in the WWF in those days, I would have been losing it. So I tried to, it was a lot of political maneuvers to keep yourself on top in those days. But if you stayed in the territory too long, you get to be old news. So if you got really hot in one place...
Well, the WWE or the WWF, they were face... the champions were always the face, so you were amazing heel. Your lifespan there can only last a certain life.
Yeah, I mean, the heels...
Because the belt kept staying on Backlund.
Well, the heels don't have a long lifespan naturally because sooner or later, the good guy's got to beat them.
Yeah.
Or you don't have a hero.
Right.
Which is different from the NWA, right? Because the bad guys are one of
Ric Flair was
heels
the face, and he was always a bad guy.
So, real quick, we know you leave the
face of the company.
We know you leave the WWE. What was it like working for Vince Sr.? I know you really didn't work for Junior, but can you tell us maybe the difference between the two?
The thing, because I was young at the time, I really didn't deal with Vince Sr. like a top guy would deal with him. Bruno was taking care of all that, and I was kind of caught in the middle of Bruno and Vince Sr.
So Bruno's almost like your negotiator.
Well, Bruno was telling me what to do with some things, too, because I didn't know...
Sure.
Did Bruno ever call you on the phone or come to your house and complain about Senior, taking advantage of him?
No, we talk on the phone, and it was never a taking advantage of. It's the way the business was. Mm-hmm. If you didn't speak up for your money, you'd get what they give you. And if you spoke, but if you stood up for yourself, they may be pissed about it for a day or two, but they had more respect for you because they knew you were a sharp guy like they were. If you were stupid...
They took advantage of you.
Okay, go ahead. Here's your $40.
So speaking of that, we have a show on Sundays, the Evan Ginsberg Show, from 11 to 1 o'clock. He'll be on with a couple of guests tomorrow. He's a big proponent that Vince, at this point in his company, should be taking care of the older wrestlers and helping them out. Can you weigh in
now?
Now. So
medical pensions for guys who worked 30 years ago.
So my point, I guess my question to you
is,
be
anything like that
why didn't you guys try to unionize? And 2, do you believe that you were taken care of well enough that that was up to you to make sure that your retirement was
Well, yeah, I
event.
mean, the business was an individual thing in the old day. I mean, I don't know if it's a company giving a pension because no one ever paid into a pension.
Right.
You know, I mean.
Okay.
So it's not like they had pension plans.
Do you think it's an individual business today?
Well, yeah, in a different way. I mean, in my days we had territories. So you can go to one territory and make as much as you could, and before they buried you, you went to a new one. Until you kept having a place to go to make money. Nowadays, to make big money and be a big star, it's really the WWE. So you have to be smart enough and good enough to get over with the crowd enough so the WWE wants to keep you. Some guys have been there a long time. Some guys, don't make it a long time. Some guys get hurt. Some guys shouldn't be there.
Right.
Yeah.
When you left Vince, you went on to the NWA. Was this culture shock for you? And also, you followed it up by going to the AWA. In a span of 6 years, you basically crossed over the big three: WWF, NWA, and AWA. What was the difference between the three promotions? And was it culture shock going from one to the other?
Well, it wasn't culture shock for me. It worked out. It was probably more culture shock for guys going up to the new WWF.
But aren't you?
Well, how about going into the NWA and you're no longer with Bruno?
Well, that was what I was going to say.
That dynamic
you're not
is
under
no
that
longer
ring
there.
of protection.
Well, but here's the thing. Because I was with Bruno, and because I had such a publicity with the heat from the Bruno feud, when I went to territories, they were really nice to me. And I was smart enough to know how to work with them, and the AWA was a great territory in those days.
That feud with Bruno solidified everything.
Yeah.
And it did. It was great.
So, how do you feel about Ric Flair's comments when he said Bruno can only sell out the Garden and a little part of the Northeast, and he couldn't transition to any other territory? What are your feelings about that comment?
Oh, well, Bruno wasn't a big Flair fan. I mean, to Bruno, Flair was a routine guy. You've seen one match, you've seen them all.
What's your feeling on Flair?
Well, I mean, you got to give Flair credit. Flair's obviously one of the great ones. He had a career that spanned a long time. I'm amazed how long he went physically. I mean, I did broadcasting for 10 years. Rick was still wrestling.
Right.
But I think there was just some things, Flair might have said when Bruno hears it, then Bruno gets mad and says stuff back. But Bruno didn't really care too much for Flair in terms of being all that great. He was a routine guy, colorful guy, could talk great, but you can't take nothing away from Rick either.
Did you feel Bruno got a little bitter towards the end because of the money these guys were making in the mid-'80s?
The business changed so much.
The business changed after Hogan came to WWF.
It must have been a shock.
Well, it changed a lot. It's not that he got bitter. You know what it was with some of the old-timers? It was almost kind of an humiliating embarrassment where they wanted to hide because they spent their whole lives to the point of not having friends, not talking to your wife. You never smarten your wife up. Mm-hmm. Their families. You never smartened your family. Nobody. Right. So they came from a totally different philosophy. Vern and Bruno and Crutch and all the old school guys. Mm-hmm. So when the business was changing, and it wasn't no one specifically that changed the business, humanity changed. Right. Humanity now, where 20 years ago you'd vote for the president or the vice president, but nowadays no one believes in politicians. Mm. They're all smart to all the...
I'm running. You didn't hear?
They're all smart to the corruption of the politicians and what really goes on in Washington. And I'm glad Trump's draining the swamp. But back then, so...
There's someone's going to be doing texting you now.
I'm with you. Everything's fine, but someone's...
Larry, I used to be a fan. No longer.
So it just got to a point where the fans humanity was changing, and the old-timers didn't want them to lose that belief because they knew if the fans believe this is real, we'll make more money and it'll be better. Right. But it was going the other way out of a natural progression of humanity.
How did you feel when kayfabe, How did that make you feel?
I was in the generation that kind of went... I was one of the last of the old school mentality guys, but I was going through an era where it was changing. And the one thing I noticed, because I'd be listening to matches before my match, like in the AWA and NWA, people would start once in a while, go, oh, boring, because now they're starting to get smart. But I could go out there, and they would chant, Larry sucked, and I knew how to work them to it. They were booing it, and there'd be riots. Yeah. and all that.
16-minute stall.
I'd come in after a match. The Road Warriors would say, "Oh my God, what an easy crowd this is," because it was,
Right.
And then they go out. The match was dead quiet.
Yeah.
And then they come back, and the Hawk would be bitching.
Right.
Well, what? You said it was an easy house out there. I said, yeah, if you know how to work.
For me, yeah.
Don't say that to me, Larry.
Yeah.
You
finally get a hold of AWA. You finally get a heavyweight world title. I don't know what took so long. I was talking to you in the back. I couldn't stand the fact that Backlund, you should have taken the belt from Backlund. I don't give a damn. I can't stand it.
Stop it.
The man's got a point.
Especially after the San Martino thing. It was right for the picking. Anyway.
He's on a roll.
You finally get the AWA World Heavyweight title. You do a program with the late, great Mr. Saito, where you guys exchanged the belt a couple
that
of
was
times.
good.
I wanted to ask you, did you want this title? Was this something that, did you always want to be the World Heavyweight Champion? Was it that important to you when you finally got it? Because I remember we read it in the mags. We were like, about damn time.
Yeah, that's true.
Did you feel like
you
really with such marks? He's laughing his ass
off,
but it's
no,
true.
I know you guys are great.
Belt on him.
Hey, Larry! To be honest, were you helping out your father-in-law Vern, who was having trouble with the territory?
Oh shit! I didn't even.
Well, I was there once before, and once when Vern should have shut down.
Right? Really?
But,
okay.
Well, wait. What would?
Were you really like? Did you always want to win a world
the belt
title?
Did you really want the AWA title? Or you like?
I want the WWE.
Let me help.
Here's the deal.
Okay.
Of a professional wrestler in psychology, I didn't care about a belt one way or another. It was a pain in the ass to drag around all through the airports.
Yeah, but didn't you get the most money when you had the title?
What you wanted to do was make the most money you could, and sometimes I would make more money being the heel going after the champion than if I had the belt. But then there was times when it was right for me to have the belt, and then they could bring in baby faces that were already known.
Well, you guaranteed yourself a main event if you had the belt,
and
they keep bringing these guys in.
But I was a main event anyway, kind of. So to me, it wasn't so much the belt, it was to make the most money you can. And at one time, especially at the end there, for me to have the belt, it worked out good because we brought like Slaughter, who was a well-known good guy to have a match with, and Harley Race and Nikita Koloff. But we were trying to tell Vern in the late 80s, would you please shut down?
Well, let me ask you, towards the end, did he ever, because he's known for, he stiffed a lot of people in the end, right? Did he ever stiff you?
Oh, no. Well, he's my father-in-law at the end.
So, but he did stiff people, right?
Well, you know what? I never heard that about Vern.
Really?
The AWA was a hard territory to get into because it was a great place to work. And here's one of the main reasons. Once you made good money there. But because the weather was so horrible in the winter times, you made a lot of money because people would go inside to watch something. You couldn't go outside.
Yeah.
But in the summertime, between getting out of the house, cabin fever, and all the farming, Vern really didn't run shows a lot in the summer, just some TVs. So in the summertime, you really had a nice kind of 3-month semi-vacation where you still made money, but then in the winter it was a gold mine. So it was a great territory, to be in and not easy to get in.
But did it make sense to you what Vern was trying to do, trying to battle back against?
No, he wasn't doing it right.
Did you try to talk to him and say, you're doing the wrong thing here, you're making a mistake?
You should do that.
Yeah, some guys tried.
How about you? Did you try?
Well, yeah,
you're in the household that breaking bread.
Yeah, no, I tried. But he just had, and talent-wise, they had the new era going with the Macho and the Hulk and the Hot Rod and the Superfly and everybody else. And Vern, after 25 years, still has...
Palomo, don't forget
Salvatore
Palomo. Still has Nick Bockwinkel and Greg Gagne. So he needed some new stuff, and it just wasn't... Yeah. And old-school promoters like Vern and the Crockett's, they were happy with what they had. They made a mint with the territories.
Yeah.
But Vince, he was the young guy of the crew, and he saw the new era coming. He saw the nationwide. Mm-hmm. And they didn't want to change, but it was now a new era, and Vince saw it, and it was his turn. He was the new promoter.
Yep.
And the other guys were, they lived their life.
He had the balls to do it.
But he saw it coming, and he did. Let me tell you, there should be a statue of Vince with Bruno and Andre.
Absolutely.
I agree with that.
If people knew some of the risks he took to make the company big, how many times he put his house...
He risked everything. Yep.
Vince is one of the greatest promoters ever.
And I actually think it was
it was ballsy.
Potentially dangerous what he was trying to do. Like, getting... I bet you he got his share of death threats, trying to, branch the product out across the country and then the world.
Well, I don't think about that because the promoters didn't know, but just the chances he took with getting Mania off the ground by, putting up his house for, collateral.
So at that
Mania
point,
didn't draw, he would have lost everything.
When Mania was coming out, at that point, are you thinking, man, I got to get back there, or...
Well, I wasn't really... I was kind of happy where I was all the time. I was making money, having a good time.
Right.
And the WWE had all their characters, so they were kind of full. And if I went in there, I could see them not really using me as a top guy because they had, at that time, their top guys. So it was better for me to
just protect yourself.
Go back and forth between AWA and the NWA.
Here's a weird one for you. I wanted to ask you what your favorite match in the AWA was, but that's not the weird part. I wanted to ask you about boxing Scott Ledoux.
Oh, that was a classic.
That was a classic.
I mean, Scott was
How did that happen? Why Scott Ledoux?
I don't know, but they've had a couple over time, with Ali versus Inoki. And
you have to train a little bit for that one? Or?
Yeah, I took him in the ring a little bit. Yeah, but Scott did a hell of a job, I thought. I mean, I watched it one time, and when you look at it, you'll swear to God that was real.
It's a little better than Piper and...
I don't. That's a great fight.
But I thought the thing with Ledoux came off really good in the ring. Scott did a good job.
I thought you both came off good in that match.
But I was so good I could work with a broom.
Wow.
It's like AJ Styles. AJ Styles could wrestle a broom. He could. He could. What was your favorite AWA match, if I can ask? How about the program with Slaughter, perhaps? Or maybe when...
Oh, God.
Didn't you retire Bockwinkel as well as Bruno? We know about
you. Yeah, of course I did.
Yeah, there you go. You have a favorite one from that promotion?
You know what? I mean, there was a bunch of classic favorite ones. But I got a few big compliments over the careers one from Luthez one time and one from Bockwinkel. I remember me and Sergeant Slaughter had a match in Chicago. And I'm trying to think what the exact comment was. But we came back, and Nick Bockwinkel came up to me, and he says, Larry, that was the greatest match I've ever seen. I mean, and I had a match with one guy, Scott Casey, a cowboy, one time in Texas some years ago, and Luke Thez was the special referee. And after the match, Luke Thez came up to me and said, Larry, and I didn't know the guy. He said, you're the greatest wrestling heel I've ever seen. And that was like one of the biggest compliments. Harley Race told me one time it was the best hour of Broadway he ever saw, me and Tommy Rich.
These are big names.
Larry,
so I felt really good about it.
Was there one guy that you just couldn't work with? It was just as great as you are that you weren't able to make it work?
Not that I really worked with. I mean, if they were that horrible, I'd work around them.
Okay.
I mean...
Anyone you dreaded, finding out you were facing? I know it's hard to throw people.
To be honest with you, there wasn't, because I was so good at.
There you go.
If they were an a-hole, I already worked them. They think I liked them, but in the ring I could do things, and I could really wrestle too. So I could do some things.
Absolutely.
All right, Larry, I'm going to ask you this question because this is my favorite question. What is your biggest payday?
Oh, that is his favorite question.
I do. Look, you don't have to give me an exact number, but maybe it could give me. But everybody's answer with some form or another.
Some form or another.
And what event was it?
I'm trying to think. I mean, for the day...
Was it Shay?
Because with the biggest money, I mean, the WCW contract.
Yeah, it's big money. Yeah,
there we go.
But that was... But, for the year, though, you get a contract for a year, $350,000, $400,000 for working a day a week and all the benefits.
Ooh-wee. Sign me up.
Yeah, no kidding. And I was insulted at first.
What? You want me to what?
Work one day? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, I do Nitro, and then I
this is ridiculous.
A day and a half a week. What the hell is this?
How dare you?
How dare you?
Know who I am?
All of you, Mr. Turner.
And I want a pension on top of that.
Yeah, where's my
and
pension?
medical.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Bruno, take the job, Larry.
Yeah.
That's great.
What were we talking about?
Biggest payday for an event that you...
I mean, for a one-night deal. I mean, Shea Stadium was big for its day.
Okay.
But I think the biggest one I made was $30,000 for the one shot.
Nice.
That was the Japan thing with me and Saeed.
Nice.
Really?
I think if I remember right,
Japan.
that was $30,000 cash, and you'd come back to the country with $30,000 stuck in a money belt.
That's pretty funny.
Telling customs, "Do you have 5,000 on you?" Certainly not.
No, I don't.
I have 1,200 in T-shirts, sir.
That
Thank
is
you.
great. great.
And back then, the guys, you could get, a Rolex that would be $5,000 here would be $300 in Japan, because in those days the yen was so different.
Sure.
So you'd have guys coming back with 10 Rolexes they spent $1,000 on, selling them for $30,000 to people.
Can you tell us a little bit about maybe some experience with Andre the Giant that you might have had?
Oh God, Andre, yeah, a good friend of mine. We traveled a bunch, especially in Japan. But it was a classic with Andre. Nice guy. We played cribbage a lot. We played cards. But it was always an interesting story. Andre would get off the plane and walk down the hall. I would always walk behind him a little bit because I like to watch the show. And as Andre was walking, from the gate, there'd be hundreds of people coming his way. And they'd all walk by him, but not look at him like he wasn't even there. Even though,
he's there.
But as soon as he took 2 or 3 steps past him, everybody stopped and turned around. So as Andre's walking down, people are coming like nothing's happening. As soon as he leaves, now you got 100 people all turning around, looking at him from the back going, oh my God. And stuff like that. One time, me and Gurria were following a little guy named Freddie. Freddie in Boston was a referee, a little skinny guy. But he had a big beat-up car with a broken seat that Andre could fit in. So we put Andre in Freddie's car. Freddie was driving, and me and Gurria were following him to the building. And Freddie pulls up to a stop sign, kind of a rainy, drizzly day. And for some reason, Freddie pulls out of the stop sign, makes a turn. Someone comes along and hits Freddie in the bumper. Boom, they have like a little bumper bender in the road.
Okay.
So the one car skids and stops. Me and Tony are sitting in the car looking at this, and little skinny Freddie gets out of the car, and the guy sees Freddie gets out of his car and starts walking over to little Freddie, rolling up his sleeves.
Oh, boy.
You stupid son of a bitchin' kid! As he's saying this, the door opens, and all of a sudden, there's a gigantic afro that exploded bigger than the door of the
afro's
car.
bigger than the average sized person.
Yeah.
Alone. Go on.
We popped up. Andre started getting up. By the time the guy got to the back of the car, Andre stands up, and the guy looks up and he starts rolling his sleeves down, going, "You've got to be kidding me!" Oh, and he runs back to his car and shuts it and sits there. Because they're waiting for the cops, because there was no cell phones or nothing back then.
You want a peanut?
Oh, my
But it was always something like that with Andre.
I love it, man. Oh, my God.
How about your opinion on Hulk Hogan while we're on it?
The Hulk?
Yeah.
Hey, you can't take anybody that managed to become a big star in this business. Mm-hmm. You can't take anything away from him.
Do you think he should be forgiven already? Enough is enough? Or
Well, I really don't know what the story was.
Right.
But it has something to do with a racial crack or something?
Somebody taped him a bunch of years back, and then they tried to make money off it, and then they got their asses sued, and then they lost, and now Hogan is basically dealing with the damaged leftover residue of the whole incident. And,
yeah, I mean, to know.
Did I describe it?
I mean, to be honest with you, you can't take nothing away from the Hulk, because he had an era. You know, I mean, him and some other guys, I mean, you can take what he says with a grain of salt, because, it took Hulk and Macho and Piper and Snuka and Andre to sell out what one Bruno would, if they sold out, So, but I think at the end of his career, Hulk was getting maybe, I don't know, $2,000. He was doing some things that were so silly. Like didn't he do some it was a thing where who's that chick with the big giant ass? Kardashian.
Yeah.
It was in this thing. What's horrible? I don't even know what the big deal is. Anyway.
I'm kind of with him on this.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, it's overrated, I'll tell you that.
She's got a nice ass.
Oh, it's so overrated.
Nice.
You need to make her a billionaire, she's overrated.
It's huge. Anyway. And that's just a turn off to me. I can't help it. They must really smell. So.
That's awesome.
But.
You were saying?
I forget now.
I totally forgot.
He was doing something with Kardashian.
Hogan was doing something with Kardashian.
Oh, no.
$2,000 at Kardashian's.
No, but back then, everybody was releasing some stupid sex tape. Like someone had sex and it was snuck out. And I think that was done on purpose with some of these showbiz people to get publicity.
Yeah.
And it looks to me like Hogan tried to do that same.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people want to see Hulk Hogan having sex, man.
But then it's just the love spot. I think that was a total, and I think there was stuff he didn't need to do. Right. Larry, he really kind of hurt himself is what he did.
In the 70s, I don't know how prevalent drugs were, but obviously in the 80s, that's when wrestling and drugs and human growth hormone, steroids, and everything else. You were in those locker rooms. Did you ever try to give these kids some advice, or are you just just took care of yourself type of deal?
Well, you know what? Like in the 70s when I started, there was no drugs.
Right.
Not even pot. And the guys I hung out with, Bruno, Dominic, I mean, there was no drugs.
In your circle.
I saw a little bit of pot in college.
Right.
Yeah, but I never got into the drug thing. I wanted to be a wrestler. And there was never any drugs around in the 70s. But then when I went down, but then the pot started coming around and people would smoke pot. But then I would see people that smoked pot were better to hang out with than the drunks because the drunks were always getting in fights and being nasty. And
imagine that.
It was stupid, and all that.
Bret Hart said that.
But then it wasn't, again, it's not so much the wrestling. It's wrestling makes the most money it can when it follows what goes on with the human race and where humanity is.
Bingo.
You know, Bruno was the American dream story of the immigrant starving that made a success in America, good guy. And then there was an era of starting with like the Terminator and Dave Draper and Arnold Schwarzenegger that had such an awesome look. Mm-hmm. You know, because the guys before them, Charles Atlas was 210 pounds. He looked like a starving geek next to Arnold or Dave Draper or some other guys they had. And people were, oh, my God. So wrestling followed that. And the guys that started winding up being stars were the guys with the surrealistic looks. And people bought it for a little bit because no one knew about steroids. Mm-hmm. You know, and then when they found out, it was like, and that was one of Bruno's things was a lot of legitimate athletes that are tough guys weren't getting the good push because the guy who didn't know a squat and wasn't even a good athlete, some of them, looked amazing because they were gassed to the gills.
Right. Well, you are a big guy and were a really big guy when you were wrestling.
I was
you never hit the gas.
Thick. He was natural.
No, I never used the gas. I mean, I was like 5'11" and 3/4, never hit 6 foot. And the most I ever weighed was like 248 pounds, almost hit 250. Like Bruno was about a little shorter than me, but his bones were so big.
Right.
But I worked out with him, and when I was 21 at 240 pounds, I benched 465.5 pounds with the 1 second pause.
Wow.
Which for a guy who weighed 240.
It's great.
You know, was a lot. But until I think Billy Graham might have been like the first guy that came in from the West Coast that had that ridiculous look. And then everybody started, Hulk and, half the guys that are dying now. Or
what did Bruno think of Superstar Graham?
That's a great question. That is
because this, to me, he's the...
That's
the
total
poster of the complete opposite of a Bruno. This guy's not the natural built wrestler. He's got that totally flamboyant over the top thing going on.
Yeah, I really don't know, to be honest with you.
Really?
What did you think of Superstar?
I don't remember anything negative that Bruno would say about
just curious,
Billy or anything.
What did you think about Billy when he came?
Well, when he first came around, I mean, he was a top heel, and I was working with him at the clubs, and he was a night off. Because his matches were real short, but I never had any trouble with Billy. In fact, but when he first came around with that look, I didn't think steroids either.
Right.
Right. But then,
you're thinking? Wow, this guy's really naturally big.
He's huge.
Geez, look at him!
Look at this guy.
I remember one time he was out in the ring in the garden, and me and Vince Senior are standing there looking at him, and we look at each other and we go, "My God!"
Yeah.
Yeah. But then it started happening with everybody, and then even the guys that were there I know Dino Bravo was a good-looking guy with a good body.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, 6-8 months later, I see him. He's over 300 pounds. He's swelled up to the gills. He looked better at 260.
Right.
But the guys were doing it. They didn't even need to do it. They just thought they should.
Well, they had to, right? They were afraid that they'd lose their spot, right?
Yeah, I don't think they would have, but they were afraid they would have.
So now as you're progressing, you're in WCW. Again, I'm only assuming. You're in these locker rooms, you're announcing, you're wrestling, whatever. These guys are popping pills, they're snorting coke, doing whatever else. I mean, what are you thinking?
Well, guys kayfabe stuff. It wasn't like, you go in the dressing room and the guys would never really get screwed up until after the matches. Then they go to a bar and drink. And in the 80s, there was cocaine around just about everywhere. But it wasn't a weird thing. It was social.
Right.
I mean, you'd walk in somewhere, there'd be a movie director, a lawyer, a judge, other people that would have a little
Shocking.
bottle and hey, how you doing? You want a bump?
Yeah.
It was like
A bump.
the
There
social
you go.
thing. Can I buy you a beer? Hey, have a bump.
Everybody's looking at the floor afterwards for the leftovers.
Yeah, but it wasn't a
Grinding your
thing.
gums.
I tried it a little bit sometimes because everybody had it, but I didn't like the feeling of being wired.
Yeah.
Because if you did want
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention?
Are you ready? I said, are you ready? You're rocking with the heavyweight champs of sports talk.
Don't act like you're not impressed.
Brandon Way and Brandon Rudolph.
Stop what you're doing and listen.
Tune in to Opinionated Facts, Tuesdays at 6 p.m. on the RTF Sports Network. And we're back again every Sunday at 12 noon on Facebook Live.
Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
Only on the Opinionated Facts Facebook page, presented by TCP Network.
What's going on, everybody? Whether you're practicing social distancing of 6 feet up to 6 miles, you can still party with On and Off the Field, where you can listen to the best NFL and charity-based podcasts out there on the RTF Sports Network. You can follow them on Facebook or go to rtfsportsnetwork.com and check out the show Thursdays from 4 to 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Coming up next, right here on the RTFSportsNetwork.com radio network, is The Chronicles with your host, Cal Miller Trey. Stay tuned.
You're now tuned in to the Chronicles podcast, hosted by the homie Cuzzo UBZ.
So what's been going on? Just chilling. These early morning podcasts, I love to wake Doe up. Because you have a fresh mind in the morning. Mm-hmm. It's not worn out, and you're not spewing gibberish by the end of the day. So let's go, man. So what we want to get into first? Oh, so I went to Baskin Robbins yesterday, right?
Fat boy.
Yeah, I'm a fat boy. So
Fat boy scoop.
went and had, a fat boy special, 2 scoop hot fudge sundae.
No, 4 scoop.
No, the fat boy special is the banana royale.
Yeah.
So I had a 2 scoop sundae. Lady was in there. I had my mask on, of course. I'm wearing a mask now. So
for no reason. Part of his hysterics.
So she
An
rings.
Update on his hysterics. Go ahead.
So she rings me up, right? She's got gloves on. She does my ice cream. She sits up here and I hand her the money and just
so you didn't wait. Let's stop the transaction.
Mm-hmm.
So you didn't have gloves on?
No.
So all the money she touched, she just passed the germs from all the money to your hand.
Pretty much, yeah. I know.
Just asking.
Yeah.
So the purpose of your mask was for what?
There's no purpose. I totally agree. So
we'll just clarify these.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hysterics.
Absolutely. So where was I at? So I tried to hand her the money. She had gloves on, of course. Mm-hmm. She pushes the tray towards me. I'm like, okay.
What tray?
I guess they have a tray now because they have the shield up and they just want you to put the money in the tray. Kind of like the gas station, near Fred Meyer's Midtown. Yeah, the drawer. So she kind of slid it and I was like, okay. So I put the money in there. She gives me my change and hands me my receipt. And there's a customer behind me, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm getting my change and she goes to help the next customer. But before she goes to help the next customer, she puts on a hand sanitizer on the gloves she's currently wearing.
No, there's nothing wrong with that.
Are you shitting me?
No.
She's putting hand sanitizer on the gloves. She's wearing the gloves and putting hand sanitizer and going like that with the gloves. I can't even do a reenactment without laughing.
Well, she's getting the germs off the gloves, I guess.
Docious is being sarcastic, y'all.
No, I'm not. I mean, isn't that what she's doing?
Of course, once that shit dries up, that would tear the fuck out them gloves.
Not necessarily. I don't know.
So that's the thing to do now. Everybody that's wearing gloves, you don't even got to take your gloves off. Just put hand sanitizer on with the gloves you got on now.
I don't know. They're wearing gloves. If that's what they want to do, they wearing gloves. I guess.
I saw that. I just started laughing.
This is worthless as a mask, in my opinion.
Just as worthless?
Mm-hmm.
Huh. I don't know. That's crazy. Oh, man.
Wearing the gloves and the mask, I agree.
Wearing the gloves and the mask?
Or either or. Yeah, I agree.
I haven't seen too many people out wearing the gloves and the mask. Everybody, when I went to Walmart or Fred Meyer's, they've had on the mask. No gloves.
They're missing a part of their attire then.
They're missing a part of their PPE.
Hysterical. The hysterics.
You know what upsets me the most? You know, I've been home, and what really has upsetted me the most about this whole thing, like, what to you is essential?
Going to work, period.
Going to work is essential.
Yeah. Earning money.
In this pandemic thing, you know, people are a lot of businesses are trying to say they're essential when I personally don't believe they're essential. Like, give you an example, just in more than just businesses, just jobs in general. I'm starting to realize, as much as I've been home now, actually watching TV, a lot of this shit is not essential. Even the shit we watch on TV, right? Like, I watch the news every night, right? Mm-hmm. So, the news, they have one reporter, which is usually one reporter. It's been. Sometimes maybe two. So, I'm watching the 10 o'clock news. They got one reporter. Yeah, T'Chaka cracking under the table with a fucked up leg. Limping and shit. So, it's usually one person telling the shit, right? Mm-hmm. And then they always do this little dumbass segment where they go to the weather. And then the weather person is at home, and the weather person's doing fucking the weather at fucking home. And they do like a Skype session just for motherfuckers to tell you what the weather is. What is the purpose of that? That's not essential. Yeah, check it.
I don't know.
I don't get what.
That's how you feel. That's what they do. They decide what's essential and what isn't.
Like I don't need a bitch sitting in her room, in her living room, telling me what the weather is. Just fucking text the bitch that's live on TV what the weather's gonna be, and she can sit up here and say it, right? If you got one bitch telling the news anyway, they might as well say, okay, let's take a look at the forecast right here. It's going to be blah, blah, blah. This for the next 5 days. We don't need the extra going to somebody on FaceTime or
But why not?
Skype.
You the one suggested the shutdown, so now don't complain about it. You the one for the shutdown, so now don't complain how the shutdown works.
I just believe that there's a difference between
don't
being
complain
essential
about the shutdown if you're for the shutdown.
Like I said, I just believe the shit that's essential, that's really essential.
You shouldn't complain about how they shut the shit down if you agree with the shutdown. No.
One person can do the whole news. One person can do the whole news.
Don't complain. Right? You suggested that you for the shutdown, so deal with it. You should have no complaint.
Like I said, one person should be able to do the whole news.
If they go to somebody's bathroom while they in the bathroom and they give you the fucking weather, be happy. You're one for the shutdown, so I don't want to hear this bullshit and complain about how the shutdown works after you're a person for the shutdown. Believe me, I don't want to hear it.
I'll give you another example.
Okay.
So look, last night I'm up late. I'm watching Jimmy Fallon.
Yeah.
You know who Jimmy Fallon is, right?
I think so.
So apparently Jimmy Fallon, and I'm guessing some of these late night people have been doing their shows. A lot of daytime people too, but for instance, last night Jimmy Fallon does his show from his house. Okay. So it's the Jimmy Fallon show, not live like it's usually in front of a studio audience. He's doing it Skype, FaceTime, however the fuck they're doing it, Zoom, however. Mm-hmm. Jimmy Fallon looks like he just woke up. He didn't comb his hair. He had bags under his eyes. He was just in regular shit. Okay, regular clothes, that doesn't bother me. But when you look like you literally just rolled out of bed and got in front of the computer, it's like, come on, why are we even doing this?
Because you were for the shutdown.
And then his guest is what's the singer, the country singer Blake Shelton, the dude that's married to Gwen Stefani. So he's a guest. He's sitting here on his porch or whatever. Got dogs in the background. They're just talking about a bunch of bullshit. Nothing's really coming. And Gwen Stefani comes up, and she decides to give him a haircut while they're doing the fucking interview or whatever the fuck we're calling this. So Jimmy looks like he just fucking woke up. They're doing haircuts and shit like this is fucking hair science or some shit. I'm sitting here at 10:45 at night like, why are we wasting our time? Why doesn't Jimmy Fallon just air reruns? I would rather watch a rerun as opposed to this bullshit.
It's part of your shutdown. Deal with it.
So we can air reruns.
They didn't choose to do that. They chose to do with that. So be happy.
Docious is defending the shutdown, y'all.
I'm not defending the shutdown.
Are you caping for the shutdown?
No, you are.
How am I caping for it?
You're the one for it. I'm not for no damn shutdown.
I think, like I said, when I said I was for the shutdown, I said shit should have been shut down already.
That's what I'm saying. So
for at least 2 weeks.
Okay, whatever. We didn't been through that dumb stuff already.
But all the shit that's going on now is a half shutdown, half. I don't even know what this is.
It was always a half shutdown.
In some cases, not even a half shutdown.
Oh well.
In some cases,
it should have never been a shutdown. At all. Period.
At all?
No.
I don't know. I just think of the news stations, especially in the late night shit. That shit just really irritated me. I saw that shit. I saw that Jimmy.
That's how they doing their shutdown. You were for the shutdown. That's how they doing the shutdown. Deal with it. I don't know how many times you want me to say it.
You don't watch TV though, so you don't give a fuck.
I damn sure don't watch no motherfucking Jimmy Fallon and the other bullshit. No.
It just happened to be on, and I was just like, "What am I watching?"
Your shutdown programming.
And they weren't even talking about shit.
That's your shutdown.
Our conversation on the phone yesterday was like 100 times better.
Okay, this is your shutdown programming that you're for. So like it, love it, leave it. It's up to you.
No, fuck that. I can complain.
Why? You want to shut down? That's what you got. Be entertained.
I'm not entertained.
Well, that's
wrestling with no crowds, there just shouldn't be any wrestling.
You want to shut down? What else you expect? You for the shutdown. I don't see how you complain about anything.
And one of the WWE employee then came up with coronavirus, and they're still trying to do live shows.
Shaka, sit down.
Docious gonna have to whoop that ass. I don't know. Though. Now he's all looking sensitive and shit. So yeah, so now.
No, sit down. What? Now what?
There's been should we talk about the Surgeon General first, or should we talk about China first?
I don't know. How are we going to talk about China?
Because we'll go to China afterwards. The Surgeon General. Me and you had a conversation yesterday. We kind of talked about the whole Big Mama shit, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let me pull the interview first. Get it. I love having my links in order so I could.
I like you having them in order too.
You like me having them in order too? Hold on.
Sit down.
Yeah, check it.
T'Chaka.
Yeah, he ain't listening.
I have a quick question for you. You said that African Americans and Latinos should avoid alcohol, drugs, and tobacco. You also said do it for your abuela, do it for Big Mama and Pop Pop. There are some people there are some people online that are already offended by that language and the idea that you're saying behaviors might be leading to these high death rates. Could you talk about whether or not could you, I guess, have a response for people who might be offended by the language that you used?
Well, I use that language because that's the language. I've been meeting with the NAACP, with the National Medical Association, with others. I actually talked with Derek Johnson multiple times this week, the head of the NAACP, and we need targeted outreach to the African American community, and I use the language that is used in my family. I have a Puerto Rican brother-in-law. I call my granddaddy granddaddy. I have relatives who call their grandparents Big Mama. So that was not meant to be offensive. That's the language that we use and that I use, and we need to continue to target our outreach to those communities. It is critically important that they understand it's not just about them, and I was very clear about that. It's not just about what you do, but you also are not helpless. We need to do our part at the federal level. We need people to do their parts at the state level, and we need everyone, black, brown, white, whatever color you are, to follow the president's guidelines, the coronavirus guidelines, and do their part. Because when I talked to the NAACP 3 weeks ago, it's important to note that one of the things they asked me was, can you help dispel the myths in this community that people actually can't get coronavirus if they're black? That was a myth that was out there that's actually very important for us to squash here.
And that all Americans avoid tobacco, alcohol, and drug use at this time?
Absolutely. It's especially important for people who are at risk and with comorbidities, but yes, all Americans. So thank you, and I will clarify that. All Americans need to avoid these substances at all times. I put out a smoking cessation report in January. I put out a advisory against youth and pregnant women using marijuana last year, and that was not directed towards any one race. That's everybody needs to do everything they can to be as healthy as possible at this critical time. Dr. Fauci, would you do anything?
All right. So that was the reporter, and that was his response. Now, before we even dive into it, I'm going to sit up here and play this other clip that brings more context into what he's saying. Looks like he's chomping at the bit.
My office, long before COVID-19, has been talking about health equity, has been talking about the need to help people understand when they're at risk and to actually intervene. And when you look at being black in America, number one, people unfortunately are more likely to be of low socioeconomic status, which makes it harder to social distance. Number two, we know that blacks are more likely to have diabetes, heart disease, lung disease, and I've shared myself personally that I have high blood pressure, that I have heart disease and spent a week in the ICU due to a heart condition, that I actually have asthma and I'm pre-diabetic. And so I represent that legacy of growing up poor and black in America, and I and many black Americans are at higher risk for COVID. It's why we need everyone to do their part to slow the spread.
All right. Now, Docious, you look like you're deep in thought.
Oh, I was almost trying to stay away. Yes.
So, like I said, what irritated me the most about that whole thing was that a woman of color even posed that question for him to have to give that response. That's the thing that irritated me the most when I saw that. Like, did somebody give her that question to ask? Like, why would she even say that? Why would he even need to clarify on that?
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know. Ask him.
That's Docious' epic response?
Mm-hmm. That's it.
Oh, my goodness.
I'm thinking... I wish he had said that for years that the model of medical precaution was a middle-aged white man.
Mm-hmm.
So every model they used on how to get sick, what made you sick, how to react to be getting sick, or whatever, was based off of white people.
Mm-hmm.
I wish he had said that.
Mm-hmm.
And in saying that, that for me, what he was saying was perfectly fine. I don't know why he needed to clarify who he was talking to and why would it apply to all people if he was specifically already in context talking to and about African Americans.
Mm-hmm.
He's a Surgeon General of the United States, so I would think that as many warnings that are out there, all people know that besides when he's not specifically talking about a particular an American, that he means all Americans. I don't know why that needed clarification. I don't know how that people could be offended by that. I'm not for sure. They should be offended that African Americans, other communities haven't been included in the Surgeon General's model of healthcare because it's modeled after white folks. We all know that. Well, we should all know that. So that should be offensive. Honestly. I don't know. Of course he said what he wanted to say. I'm not saying he failed because he didn't say what I would like to have said, but I think that was pretty. I think that when she said, "Does people behaviors lead to them being susceptible to the virus?" He should have said, "Absolutely."
Yeah, absolutely.
If you smoke and you catch the flu or you catch any disease that's respiratory, you can be susceptible to having pneumonia or having more complications because of it.
Yeah.
If you have these other underlying issues, hypertension, diabetes, or whatever, of course.
Yeah.
And sometimes diabetes is inherited or genetic instead of stuff you're eating or whatever.
And that's the thing, though. That's where it irritates me because it's like a person with common sense knows that. What you just said. I feel like a person with common sense should know that.
But that's my whole thing about the shutdown. That's what I think the United States should be doing is why we elect these officials. I think I said this already. Is that they should use the resources they have to make things better and do things that we don't think about doing because they have all those particular people there and those minds and resources there. So stuff that I think of, in my opinion, should already have been thought of. So the shutting down things because of this or that, in my opinion, they should have thought that the total effect on everybody. Now, some people won't die from the coronavirus that they get it. Some people will. Some people won't recover from the economic fallout. Some people will. Eventually, they may or they may not.
Right.
But the point is that shutting everything down affects. For me, like I said, the economical fallout from this will be more devastating than people dying from the coronavirus. And I say that because every year we do nothing about the people who die from the flu. There's no PPE. There's no social distancing. There's no overrunning of the hospitals. There's no people. There's no emergency at all for the flu that kills thousands. Maybe, I don't know, millions, but thousands, hundreds of thousands of people every season.
So what do you
every season, not just sometimes.
So
every season.
So in saying that,
everybody's working. Everybody's going to. Nobody's buying all the toilet paper. Nobody's buying all the wipes.
So in saying that, do you think they treat it differently because there is a flu vaccine?
There is no flu vaccine
that
stops you from getting...
Right. But do you think it's treated differently because it's a flu shot? Vaccine shot?
Why should it if the concern are deaths?
That's a good point. You can't argue with that point. I think what hurt this whole situation, and like I said, there's plenty of footage. Everybody did what... Not saying you're wrong in your thought process, but everybody did what you're saying. Everybody on all the TV stations were saying this was no different from the flu. They were saying all in the beginning, the Dr. Oz is the doctor. What the fuck was the dude I sent you?
Fauci?
No. Fauci's the one that's...
The rapping dude?
With the glasses. The one that made the statement and said I was wrong.
Oh,
Drew. Yeah, now they're all coming out and saying, we were wrong. And I think part of it...
what?
That it's more serious, claiming that it is more serious.
How is
than
it
the
more
flu.
serious?
And that's what I'm saying. I think
that's what I'm saying. Before they change what they're saying, how is it more serious? In what way is it more serious?
The most information I got, like I said, was that video I sent you of that good interview from that doctor in Thailand. I think it was in Thailand or Korea.
They had the subtitles.
That had the subtitles,
but he didn't prove the more severity of it.
But what he was explaining, he was explaining droplets, and he was explaining how it could be on surfaces for longer and stuff like that.
But that doesn't mean more people. That doesn't extrapolate into more people dying.
But it's more contagious.
That's not how. That's not proof it's more contagious.
Because the
it may be, in my opinion, it may be easier communicable, but not more contagious. So more contagious would mean, like I said, that we were discussing this before, that if we put a person in with COVID-19 and we put the person in with flu, and both people sneeze, what is the person who's not sick going to get?
But generally, when you have the flu...
That's what I'm saying.
But what I'm saying is...
Answer that question. Okay, go ahead.
The asymptomatic portion of it makes it worse than the flu.
That has nothing to do with dying. That has nothing to do with underlying complications.
But the
fact so that doesn't make it more contagious.
If you're asymptomatic, let's just say you're asymptomatic and you don't know you have it. You have no symptoms.
Okay.
You could give it to me and I could have underlying symptoms.
Right, but that doesn't mean that either you or I are going to die from it.
No, it doesn't mean.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying. So
you're looking at it. So what you're saying is you're looking at it from the overall mortality rate.
No, I'm not. I can't. I'm not going to say that. I'm not saying that because somebody doesn't die immediately from either sickness or either virus, there shouldn't be any concern. I'm saying this concern should be level, even. If people die from the flu, people die from the coronavirus. Everybody who gets coronavirus is not going to die, and neither is everybody who gets the flu is not going to die. So
I see what you're saying.
So that, then the only thing that should be important are the people who are most susceptible to both things.
So then, what you're saying is, all around, we should look at it the same.
Yes.
I can agree with that.
If we don't shut it down for the flu, then why are we shutting it down for this?
Because the flu does evolve too.
Yeah, it constantly.
Yeah,
constantly. There's constant strands of the flu that are less susceptible to antibiotics in the flu shot. You might get one flu shot one year, and the next year you need a different type of flu shot.
Right. Yeah.
Stop it.
Okay, dough cooking now. I feel like I'm getting dough informed now.
I'm not informed.
He had to get his Cadillac started up.
No. I've been saying that the whole time. The only thing that should have been put out is that if you have underlying for both things. They don't say that. They don't even say this, in my opinion, every flu season.
Right. Yeah.
If they had to put out the information,
they don't. The media doesn't cover it. Every flu season.
Who should stay home? Who are more susceptible? I think that people are smart enough in the communities to say, okay, mama, grandpa, auntie, brother, sister, whomever, hey, you're susceptible. You should stay home.
Yeah. So I mean,
there was no need for any shutdown.
So do you think this is going to change anything? I think it's going to change all around, but I think in terms of how we conduct business, I think it'll change. But what you're saying is in as far as all round change of will that make the flu be looked at differently? I kind of agree with you. I don't think that's going to change it. It should
because
though.
It will change for some people. It'll change for me. But I'm not unconcerned about catching the coronavirus or the flu.
Some people are saying this is going to be seasonal.
It might be. If it's a flu-like virus, it could be.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what do? You don't shut down for any other thing. That's what I'm saying. Don't. Don't harm people's lives that are already struggling or trying to get through life unnecessarily. That to me is unnecessarily. It's unnecessary pressures on people's family who are trying. How if you have a family of 5, how do you stay home? No school, no daycare, no job.
Yeah.
How do you stay at home?
Yeah.
And then nobody gets sick.
Yeah.
The bills ain't staying at the bill collector's office.
They not?
No, they still get mailed out.
Still?
Yeah. They still get mailed out. You still owe.
Yeah.
I be at home, these motherfuckers.
Yeah. You know. Yeah.
So it's not. That's what I'm saying. The hysterical reaction, not proactivity. The reaction to this bullshit is unnecessary.
Mm-hmm.
Totally unnecessary.
Yeah. Do you think that we kind of got off the topic of it, but ultimately he wasn't wrong for saying that, and I was upset and offended because a woman of color asked him that. Ultimately, that's what really I'm gonna say triggered. That's what triggered me when I saw that a couple of days ago.
I mean, I don't know exactly what.
Like, he handled it so well, because I would have been like, I'd have looked around the news, can you believe this bitch? Just asked me this shit? This woman of fucking color just asked me this ridiculous ass question.
And I wonder who was offended by it. If I mean, I don't know why would anybody get offended by that.
Yeah.
But, okay, so that's what she said. I don't know.
Sort of, bitch, don't you got a big mama?
Maybe they don't call the people that. I mean, they exclude some people. I'm not. Like I said,
Nana. Some kind of nickname.
Some people may not use them, but I mean, he's most certainly not excluding the people who don't use it. I mean, he was just using, like he said, he was using language that he uses in his house or with his family. So that's why he said it. You know, could I offended somebody saying grandma and grandpa?
Right.
Maybe. I guess. Could I?
Like my family, like we call our aunts. I call my aunts auntie.
Well, I mean, yeah.
Even though it's pronounced your aunt.
Aunt or aunt?
Yeah, aunt. I say auntie.
Yeah.
So I'm like, what the fuck is this bitch talking about? Like he just said some foreign shit all of a sudden. Like all of a sudden.
Or something that was offensive. I don't know.
Yeah.
You got me with that one.
Yeah.
I was trying to think about having both sides of it, but I don't know who would be offended by that. But I guess it's possible that somebody could have been offended by
Maybe
that.
white people who never used them terms could have thought that was offensive. Because I can't see a person of color finding that offensive.
Well, she didn't specify who the people were. She just said people online are already up in arms and offended by what you said. I don't know if they were offended by him saying that some behaviors lead to being susceptible to coronavirus, or the words he was using to who to talk to were offensive. I don't know if she clarified that.
Yeah.
So I'm at a loss.
He should have said, "Bitch, who are these people and what are they saying?"
Yeah. And what are they offended by?
Yeah.
What are they saying?
The term "big mama's" offensive.
Read one of the
the statements,
the messages, or whatever where she got them from, so I can hear what they're offended by.
Yeah. I don't know.
That's what I might have asked her.
That pissed me off. But before I get to China, we brought up another question I was going to sit up here and pose to not only to you and to the listeners. Has America? I think I posed this question before, but have we had it too good? Did we get to a point where we didn't give a fuck about shit like this, and we just gave a fuck about bullshit? Bitches gave a fuck about twerking on the gram, and motherfuckers gave a fuck about making stupid ass dance videos on TikTok. The average person gives a fuck about football and yada yada yada. Did we just get careless as a country?
Careless about what?
About something, the possibility of something like this happening. And I'm not talking now. I'm talking about just over the course of decades and, you know, no matter your age or no matter your, you know what I'm saying? Because we put a lot of stock into, like I saw something somewhere that said the movie Outbreak on Netflix was like the most viewed or whatever.
Well, the thing, I mean, just thinking about what you said, it's about it's only about, I think not only about, but it's about how a person chooses to live their life.
Mm-hmm.
If they drink, if they smoke, if they have unprotected sex, if they have, if they eat, if I'll just say, if some things, I think it should be more directed about having a healthy lifestyle early in a person's life. That should be the focus of it, because of things that could happen to you health wise. I think that we don't really understand. I don't think that TikTok and anything else has anything to do with it. I think that how a person lives, what they're fed, and what they are doing when they're younger in their household is important. I think that should be the focus now of people who when not contracting something that will kill you immediately, but it could be devastating if you have underlying health issues that are not hereditary.
Right.
So what I'm saying is that the things that you can avoid doing health-wise, you should avoid doing. People choose to smoke.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody says anything. People choose to drink. Nobody says anything. Some people choose drugs. You go to jail if you're caught with them. You know, weed is legal, but other drugs you get caught. But people still choose them. So you get older. You have no choice in that. You can still live as healthy as you possibly can. The older you get, I don't know what age has to do with maybe your immune system not being as strong. I don't know, how do you keep your immune system as strong as you can as you get older? That should be a topic, maybe.
So now in saying that, and I don't want anybody to take offense to that, but is that like, does America have the school shooting mentality? And when I say the school shooting mentality is, when a school shooting happens in a certain area of the country, everybody cares. It's national news. When a lone gunman or goes into a school or whatever, and it's this national outcry. Even though shootings happen in, you know, inner cities all across the country, damn near every day, multiple times a day. So are we looking at it from that aspect, or are Americans thinking of it like that aspect, like, well, I only care once it happens to me, then it's important? Because really, shit like this goes on all over the world in other countries and stuff. It's just, we just really don't pay attention to it.
Well, I think it's all about the people who are living in the community who it's happening to. If you're in the inner city, you know about shooting, people get shot all the time.
Right.
If you live in a different place, then in a place where it doesn't happen all the time, a Columbine may make national news and may be important. But then you look, you say, well, shit, it happened.
That nigga said Columbine. Columbine. I like that. You said it so smooth, though. Columbine.
If there's a bunch of Columbines in the inner cities all the time. Mm-hmm. Not as many people getting killed, but over time is that many kids getting killed. Mm-hmm. So in the people who live in those communities, like Chicago, they're like, well, shit, this motherfuckers over here getting shot all the time.
Yeah.
Y'all don't saying nothing about that.
Yeah.
But some people get shot over here.
People
now
some kids got to walk past dead bodies to go to school.
Or hope they don't get shot on the way to school.
Yeah.
Or robbed or whatever. So, you know, it's about, I think it's about it should be about all Americans paying attention to all areas of all people's lives and their health. Mm-hmm. If they don't, then they don't. I mean, nobody can make them do that. Mm-hmm. But they should.
Yeah.
You know, I don't drink or do anything, not because I overeat. I eat fatty stuff. Shit, I think I'm pre-diabetic. I have hypertension. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm just unlike the Surgeon General. My life has been led that way too. I'm not going to say that my family, how I ate. Of course, when I was younger, I loved sugar.
Right.
I love salt. I like fatty foods. Bacon, butter,
right,
grease,
right,
motherfucking pork rinds. You know, Kool-Aid was damn near syrup.
Yeah.
You know, that's how we ate. You know, should we? But that also, you know, my mom, when she cooked, we had vegetables. We had, you know, diet, get your ass out the sugar. Don't use this. I mean, I was told all those things, but I'm still susceptible to them for what I guess even in my age now because of my habits before.
Right.
So, you know, being a little overweight, yeah. So I mean, if those things I choose not to change or not to deal with, and then there's a virus outbreak, then those are my consequences. That's what happens. Should I stay home? I haven't.
Yeah.
I haven't worn a mask. I haven't worn any gloves because I know.
But have you really been interacting with the public though, or have you just been mostly in the shop?
I go to the Home Depot. I go to Walmart. I go to Fred Meyer's. So I'm interacting with whoever's out there.
Yeah. Are you practicing social distancing?
Sometimes when I think about it. I'm always a certain amount of social distancing anyway because I don't like people all up on me and I don't want to be all up on one person.
Right.
Anyway. So.
Man, I got
Sit
a cough.
down.
Man, I've been drinking the last
Sit
few days.
down.
And I got a cough.
What? You might have a corona. Ow, shit.
Maybe my drinking has dropped my immunity. My immune system, I should say.
Maybe. You be saucing it up.
Yeah, I've been saucing it up.
You like saucing it up?
Hey, can I say?
You know, I was reading on Ronald Martin's thing where it said the pastor of this congregation, I forget where.
Did
it
you
was.
say? I gotta hear you say.
Roland Martin.
You said Ronald Martin.
Roland. Did I say Ronald? Roland Martin.
I nigga said. I could have sworn I heard you say Ronald Martin.
Like,
who the fuck is Ronald?
Mr. Martin.
I'm like, this nigga Dosh is just pulling up random niggas' tweets and shit.
But because I gotta follow him on Facebook, and then I think in the caption it said idiot. I think he was calling whomever put that. I'm not gonna say Martin, Mr. Martin, called him an idiot, but it said what I read. It said the pastor was an idiot because he had the congregation, and then it said later on that he died from the coronavirus. He was an older gentleman. And I wondered, when I put up there, what I put there was like, I hope, I don't know if Mr. Martin really called this man an idiot, but I think that's shameful. The reason why I think it's shameful because those people in the congregation had a choice whether to go or not, and so did he. They chose to go because their belief in God
overpowers their belief in being.
Well, they believe they can be healed or be saved or be covered or whatever.
Right.
So why? So you believe it on any other day? Why you can't believe that during the epidemic?
Right. Some people believe it even more during an epidemic.
Okay, so that was his choice. He's certainly not an idiot for believing in what he believed in, making a choice that he chose to do.
Right. I agree.
So I think that's unbecoming because I believe I didn't hear the sound, but I believe Roland Martin on Easter was dancing wherever he was dancing at, talking about praise him.
That's the hypocrite shit.
Well, I'm just saying, we're all idiots if some decisions that we've, not all of us, but I'm certainly am if because I know some of the decisions I made could have definitely killed my motherfucking ass.
Well, I mean, when the church thing, it's tricky because I mean, people are gonna. Well, what I'm saying, the situation wise, people are gonna do what they want to do. If people go to church, if I was a pastor, if I'm going to do it, and I know this is going on, I wouldn't sit up here and 100% go faith-based. You have to sit up here and be 50-50. If I'm going to sit up here...
You have to be 50-50 in belief that the God can save you?
This is what I'm saying if it was me.
But I'm saying, would that be totally your belief, or would you be altering your belief because of the virus?
I wouldn't be altering my belief, but
well,
I would believe
50-50?
If I was a pastor, I would believe
being
in
a pastor,
precautions.
But I'm saying, being a pastor, you wouldn't believe in 100% of your God can heal you. Because you would on other days.
You can.
I'm asking you hypothetically. You would believe that on other days, right?
Yes, I would.
So why not believe that now?
But
what changes your faith in belief now?
Here's a good point, though. Okay. Here's a good point. I'm glad you said that because it puts me to the test to give you an educated and good response. So a pastor can sit up here and believe that God or whoever they believe in is going to heal them. That doesn't mean that pastor is going to go play in traffic, right?
Why wouldn't it?
Because that's common sense.
But then it's not. Then your belief in God is not 100%.
So you're saying if my belief in God, per se, me, because I'm using myself as an example.
Anyone.
Okay, so if a person's belief in God is 100%. You believe that they should just say "fuck it"? I'm going to walk through traffic.
Why say "fuck it"? You do it every other day.
What do you mean?
Why say it's not saying "fuck it"? It's part of your belief system. If you believe that you praying to your God answers and miracles or whatever,
so I would. So that person could believe that they could jump off a building and be fine.
Could they?
Could they believe that?
Could they? Yeah, couldn't they?
They could believe that, but no person's gonna do that though.
Okay, but I'm not saying, and that's what I thought of too. I'm not comparing it to say that a person who jumps out a 20-story building and says God saved me and still jumps out the building and think that they're not gonna die at the end.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
I'm not comparing it to that absolutely because that's the person's decision. So, but what I'm saying that if when you leave, I'm compared to when you bless yourself when you leave your house. Or you say a prayer when you leave your house. I'm comparing it to that.
Right, but you're going to minimalize that, right?
Why would you minimize it? You just
if you're a
100% in your belief, and you just pray that if you leave the house, you're not going to get.
What I'm saying is, a pastor, you might not do communion that Sunday, or you might not do a baptism.
Well, then you doubt the power of your God. Then
that's true. But I mean, it's the same. That's such a tricky topic.
It's not tricky
because a person
don't tell me 100% on Sunday you believe, and then the coronavirus come out. Then it's 50% now. Now it's 60%. Now it's 30%. Stop it! Either you believe or you don't. So calling the pastor an idiot is not fair.
I totally get that. I'm just saying we totally agree on that. But what you're saying is that a person that has faith in God, if they sit up here and say, well, or if a pastor says that they have 100% faith in God, just because they say, well, I'm going to do my service a little bit differently because of the pandemic, you're saying they don't have 100% belief in God.
Why didn't they change it because of the virus?
So
didn't they have 100% yesterday? That whatever they had problems in God was at the feet of God. I'm going to blame it on Jesus. Motherfucker covering themselves in the blood of Christ and all that. Didn't they believe it yesterday?
That's some gangster shit you talking. I did not expect to go into this topic today. I don't know what to say.
Well,
so
think about it.
What we're saying then is that the pastor that got arrested in, was it Florida? Mm-hmm. And I think the one got arrested or is going to get charged in Louisiana. Mm-hmm. So they essentially shouldn't be charged.
No.
Because that's their belief system.
That's their belief system. They allow it on any other day. Why did they allow it during the epidemic?
Because they were told by state and federal that they can't gather.
So why don't they arrest the people who stay at their homes when there's a tornado? They don't arrest them. When they have a mandatory evacuation, they don't go and arrest the people in their home, take their ass to jail. Do they?
Well, in that situation, they don't have time to.
No, yes they do. If they say
if a tornado's coming, they say evacuate.
No, I'm saying if they say the tornado's coming through here, mandatory evacuation, they still knocking on the doors. They don't take the people and handcuff them, put them in jail.
Right, but I'm saying
shouldn't they?
They're not double checking if they go to the person's door and the person's saying, "Hey, I'm packing, I'm getting ready to go
he said I'm not going."
What if they lie and say they are, but they don't?
Well, I'm
like a state.
Okay,
like,
so
let's use Alabama, a place that's spaced out a little bit, and
Okay, so if wherever I don't know what the calamities affect Alabama, but say whatever area they know a tornado or flood or whatever is coming. Hey, it's a mandatory evacuation. We're coming to let you know you have to leave now.
Right.
We're not going.
Right.
Do they take them people to jail?
But they wouldn't have time to.
Do they arrest them?
No, they wouldn't have time to.
What do you mean they don't have time?
That's a different because if a tornado,
if they're at their house saying that there's a mandatory evacuation, you have to get what you need and get out of your house now. We're waiting for you to leave,
and that's within a 24-hour period.
Right? And they say no.
Do you think that Alabama, for instance, has the police capacity to go and arrest people?
It doesn't. They have
and spread out throughout.
They have the capacity to arrest the pastor.
Right, but that's one person.
Oh, they're at the one person's house.
Right, but you'd have to go to every house and do that.
They do go when they have a mandatory evacuation. They do check on everybody's house, don't they?
To my knowledge, they don't. They just announce it, and then, once it's announced, then you do what you do.
Oh, okay then.
You go or you stay.
Why did they let the pastor do that then? Why are they arresting him or her?
I get what you're saying there. They're going hard on religion today, y'all.
It's not religion. I just found it interesting that was they said that whomever said that about this pastor.
Did Roland Martin say it?
I don't know. It was in his thing. I'm not saying he posted it. I asked. I said. I said. Well, I don't know if Mr. Martin really called this man an idiot. I hope that he didn't.
But his social media posted it.
Yeah.
Maybe he doesn't know what he's posted on social media.
Well,
maybe
it has his name before he should.
I agree. Anybody who has their name on social media should know if they have somebody handling
what's coming off after that.
Right.
So I haven't had any answers yet. It was at 1-2 o'clock in the morning. I'm waiting. Nobody said nothing to me.
Wow, that was a good. I never put that into perspective. So you totally think they should be business as usual?
Who should?
Well, so
I think
in a state like, and this is a good point too, in a state like Florida, and I bring this up because WWE apparently has gotten listed. I got to get some classification on this, but they got listed as an essential service. So wouldn't church be considered an essential service to some people?
Sure.
Should it be?
If that's their opinion, yeah.
If UFC can be in Florida and WWE can be in Florida.
If the liquor store and the weed store can be open, which I don't know how that is essential, then everything else should be open.
Well, up here in weed stores and states, people are going to say for medicinal purposes. But I get your point. If it's not medicinal, if it's for personal use per se, I get your point.
Liquor store ain't shut down.
Yeah, they're not. Liquor store's popping
to 2 o'clock in the morning. So
gas popping.
So
gas is what, $1.99 right now? Again?
Holiday is popping. They making crazy dudes. They can shut down. Damn, we made billions.
Yeah.
McDonald's, Burger King, all the fast food drive-thrus, killing it.
Yeah.
So they need to stop. It's not. It's like I said. It's not what it's supposed to be. It's not doing. Did less people die from it? Theoretically, probably. Mm-hmm. Now, when they open it back up, will the numbers go up? Maybe.
You know what I don't like? Also, I don't like the flack that people were getting about calling it a Chinese virus. It is a Chinese virus.
It's not a Chinese virus.
It was called the Wuhan virus.
That's just that doesn't. The Chinese virus implies that the virus is only.
No, that doesn't imply that.
Okay,
it implies it came from China.
No, it doesn't, because you can say that the virus came from China. You don't have to say it's a Chinese virus. It's not. It
Spanish
has
flu.
It has nothing. It has nothing. Nationality involved.
That's not saying it's a nationality.
If you call it something, if I call this person a Chinese man, what am I saying?
Spanish flu.
It shouldn't be the Spanish. I don't know why it's called the Spanish flu. I don't know why that is. That's older. I don't know why that is. But that it's not a Chinese virus. It doesn't emanate from Chinese people, Chinese culture, whatever.
That's not saying that.
Well, if you call a person who from China a Chinese man, what are you saying?
That he's of Chinese descent.
Oh, so what if you call it a Chinese virus? What are you saying?
That it's from China.
Well, we have the word "from" to designate where something is from.
Just because
you didn't say that man is, instead of saying that man is from China, you say he's Chinese.
Now we're doing reverse on this, because now I believe just because we're saying it's a Chinese virus, which everybody said it was the Wuhan virus when it first started. It was
that doesn't make it right. It was wrong.
So listen, hold on.
It is a virus.
But just because
related to other viruses, no matter where it starts, that's what it is.
It's from China.
No,
that doesn't mean
it started there. It's not from China.
Okay, it started in China.
Okay,
that doesn't.
So
mean...
now we have all these words to designate where it comes from, whatever. But we have to say Wuhan Chinese virus. That's ridiculous.
Let me finish.
Go ahead.
Because the news was calling it Wuhan.
It doesn't matter what the fuck the news was calling it.
Listen what I'm saying.